Hello everyone, thank you for joining me for the solution videos for the Pointer Overflow 2024 contest. But what I'm here to do is to reveal my secrets, to give you the solutions and a walkthrough for all of the challenges that I've presented to you over the course of this fall semester. And in this video, we're going to focus on the 400 level challenges only. I'm going to talk about them in the order in which they were released, and I'm also going to be revealing some other secrets that are related to the 400 level challenges, but aren't actually part of challenge texts or anything along those lines. So our first 400 level challenge that was released was Crack 400, a hard row to hoe. And I released this one first because I knew that it would take the longest to solve. It was a little bit of a mislead on the participants in the contest on my behalf, but it was part of the game. So essentially what we have here is a very straightforward cracking challenge, or at least it appears to be, right? I have a key pass database here, and it contains the flag, and if you want to get the flag, you just have to crack the password. So I chose a key pass database because of the key space and character set that we're working with here, and I thought that it would be fairly obvious that you can't just brute force this one. I present it as if you can, right? I say upper, lower, 0 through 9, and special characters, maximum complexity, minimal effort. It's supposed to be part of the clue right there is, you're supposed to realize, wait a second, this is not possible with the information that I've been given. And I figured that some participants might spend quite a bit of time combing through the challenge text, so I was very careful to groom it as such that there wouldn't be, too many red herrings in there and people would be wasting too much of their time. The idea is that nobody would solve Crack 400. And what I would do over the course of the first 4 or 5 weeks of the contest is I would begin to pretend like I was getting complaints about it, that participants were writing me and telling me that it was a pay-to-win challenge, or that it just wasn't that fun, or something like that. And I was going to get increasingly more incensed at this as the complaints, quote-unquote complaints, from the participants became increasingly more unhinged. I was just going to pretend like I was losing my mind. And, by the end of 5 weeks, I would just be ranting and raving and all of that kind of stuff. It didn't work out exactly like that because I got legitimate complaints about Crack 400. And we actually lost some participants. They quit. They quit the contest because they thought that I legitimately was insane and had no idea what I was doing or something like that. So I had to move the timetable up a little bit. I waited 3 weeks or so before finally revealing what the purpose of Crack 400 was. And when I did that, it was in the form of revealing what was known as Project 400. So Project 400 Meaningful Errors is a contest within the contest. So you cannot brute force Crack 400 a hard row to hoe. I mean, you could. I mean, you might get it that way. That's the nature of probability. You might get it, but that's not how it's intended to be solved. The way it's intended to be solved is hidden within each 400 level challenge is one character of the password. You never need to solve the 400 level challenge to get the character, but just by looking for it in each of those 400 level challenges, you can assemble the password to Crack 400. The more that you assemble, the easier it becomes to brute force as you go. I mean, brute forcing the regular full password, not likely to happen even in the span of the entire contest. But the more you discover, the easier and easier it gets. I also decided that I was going to have 2 paths to success for Crack 400. One of them would be discovering the password in each 400 level challenge, and the other one would be identifying intentional errors in the 400 level challenges and accompanying material, as I'll show you in a moment, in order to eliminate characters from the character set, thus again making it even easier to eventually brute force it, basically giving you 2 ways to either reduce the characters that you're brute forcing or reduce the number of characters that you need to brute force, both of them making the challenge significantly easier the longer and longer we go along. So I did drop hints to this throughout the entire beginning of the contest in the form, again, of releasing unhinged sort of messages and stuff like that. So like, for example, I released a series of messages here on Discord that were meant to seem like I was slowly losing my mind, and that Crack 400 really was as simple as it seemed on the surface, that it was just a brute forcing challenge. Yes, the clues that I was releasing here, for example, is I tell you that the intention of the contest isn't necessarily that it will be solved in 1 to 4 hours, that the 400 level challenges in particular, I had a special plan for, that if you stick it out, you might be able to get it. Then later on, I posted this. In the interest of fairness, I should share a couple links that I used in my research for Crack 400. Hopefully they help those struggling to understand the approach to this challenge. First, I shared this link, I'll show you, and then the second link. As you can see from the conclusion to the second article, it is very easy to crack the KeyPass file once in the hand of a hacker. That's all I'll offer by way of assistance to Crack 400 at this time, but I do still plan to release another hint if we have no solves when I release Wave 3. The first link to hashcat.net essentially is an article that confirms that it's not possible to brute force it. Like I gave the participants a link to an article that shows that it's not possible, really. And I mean, I presented it as this is what I looked at in terms of my research for the contest. So it was my way of saying, look, I know that this is impossible. I've done the research. This is. I mean, it's not a very good link. I looked at other resources, but it's my way of saying, yeah, I've done the research. I know this is impossible. The second link here, how to crack a KeyPass database file, gives some advice here from the Dutch hacker, who basically gives you, how to extract the hash and then, do a dictionary attack, right? With no dictionary attack, here's your brute forcing method, right? And the conclusion, very easy to crack a KeyPass file once in the hand of a hacker, which was kind of a taunt, sure, but I picked this article because there's an error. And Project 400 meaningful errors, if you had picked up on this error, and a couple of participants did, you would have known that you would have been able to eliminate all of the letters from the word before the typo, the letters in the typo, and the letters in the word directly after the typo. And that is the process of elimination. So you'd be able to eliminate lowercase t, h, e, a, n, d, o, and f from your list of possible characters. And now I'm beginning to get increasingly more unhinged here. Plot twist, I've infiltrated every participant and the password to the KDB is your banking password. Man, so much whining. Everyone knows crack challenges are the most boring CTF challenge. Sorry, you can't just easy points because I made things a little challenging. No one is forcing you to do this, and it's not like you paid to be here. You think I don't know how long it takes to crack a password? I could literally solve Crack 400 without even touching Hashcat. I could solve it with a notebook and a pencil because in my day, that's how it was done. If it's not your thing, fine, move on and try the other challenges. This is just like last year when people were telling me how boring crack challenges are. Sorry, I made this one a little more fun. So this is me trying to become increasingly more unhinged here, but I am dropping clues, right? First of all, everyone knows cracking challenges are boring. I got complaints about how boring they are last year. Sorry, I made this one a little more fun. That's my way of saying, hey, this cracking challenge is something special. This is a different thing. It's not just going to be a boring cracking challenge. Sorry, you can't just easy points because I made things a little challenging. That's hyperbole there, of course. Sure, it is a little bit more challenging because you have to think kind of outside the box on this one. You don't think I know how long it takes to crack a password? I could literally solve it without touching Hashcat with a notebook and a pencil. That's my way of saying that this challenge can be solved by just finding the characters in the password and writing them down as you discover them, right? So you go to the 400 level challenges, you discover the hidden character, you write them down. So a notebook and a pencil. You don't even need to use Hashcat. You just collect the characters if that's what you want to do. So, again, I know the secret behind all of this, and I'm kind of playing it up a little bit. Then I posted, okay, this is the last thing I'm going to post about Crack 400. If this isn't enough, then either wait for the hint with Wave 3 or skip the stupid challenge entirely. At this point, I'm just tired of even thinking about it. Participants are asking me to check my math. Okay, fine. First off, math is for nerds, and I'm not a nerd. I'm a rockstar hacker. I wear cool shades, dress cyberpunk style, and I'm dripped out with gear. See the attached image, which I'll show you in a moment? Literally me. Second off, fine. Here's a lesson on how password cracking works without easy scripts to run word lists. So it's about hash rate, right? You want to generate as many passwords as possible, and how do you generate passwords? If you said computers, you guessed right. The more computers working on the problem, the more passwords you can generate. But not all computers are the same. Some computers are only good for word processing. Let's call these office computers. They're not useless. If you know what you're doing, like me, you can get up to 400 million hashes per second. That's a hash rate, by the way. It means we're generating 400 passwords. It means we're generating 400 passwords per sector. It's called that because it's called that because a sector is a unit of memory, and memory stores information, aka data, aka the passwords. That's why you don't even need a GPU. What you need is a good RAM. The amount of RAM your computer does directly affects the number of passwords your machine can dream of. But my VM is really good, so it uses an i5, a very good CPU, so it can generate 1 gigahashes per second. That's 100,000 times the passwords a business machine IBM makes business machines, aka. With even mid-tier gear like an AMD Ryzen 7, you can get up to 2 gigahashes per second, which will crack almost any password a human can think of in about 12 weeks tops. But it's about luck. You might get it sooner. That's why it's important to use a password generator, because studies show humans can only choose passwords based on information they know, like birthdays and pet names. Humans have memory, not password generators in their brains, duh. So you want to complete Crack 400? It's easy. Get your friends and their computers. Don't forget to download their CPUs and get a lot of RAMs. Then just let them run. The computer will dream of passwords, and all you have to do is try them all. And one of them will probably work. It's not even hard. Or just do like I did when I designed the challenge and use a notebook and pencil. I went to sleep and dreamed of passwords. When I got one, I wrote it down and used it to create the challenge. If you dream of passwords, you will eventually dream of the same password. It works, and here's my math if you're a nerd. And I threw out a bunch of numbers. See, 10 people guarantee success, and if you don't have a powerful enough computers with good RAM in your botnet, then oh well, you don't have to solve them all. Now, if that doesn't help, I'll give everyone a big hint on Sunday the 29th after I release Wave 3. Oh my god. Alright, so I thought at this point it would be obvious, because again, at this point I had people legitimately getting upset with me because Crack 400 was impossible. And let me put it this way. My plan for Project 400 wasn't a good plan to begin with. I'm going to admit that right now, because you people don't know me, right? So for all you know, I am a lunatic who has no idea what they're doing. I would hope that that the contest and my background and everything would speak for itself, but I understand you don't know me. I also understand that a lot of you don't speak English as a first language, so you might not pick up on subtext and sarcasm and irony and that kind of thing. So if you're one of the people who was legitimately fooled and upset by this, I just want to start by saying I'm sorry. Did not intend for that to be the case. It just kind of, was an idea, and I think it was funny, and I think it was good ultimately in the end, but we did lose some people in the contest, so those people are probably never going to know that it was all one great big joke and it was really a secret part of the contest or anything like that. For those of you that stuck around, I hope that by the time you read that, you realized that there was a lot more going on here than it seemed to be. This is the picture, or a version of the picture that I had attached to that. Not many people really picked up on this. A lot of people just ignored the picture, which is understandable because it was nonsense. But if you look at it, you notice that there's some things missing from the picture. If you have reverse image searched this, or if you looked it up or you know this image, or if you just open it up and see, wait a second, there's like partial words and it's just not, it doesn't look right. That's because I did edit this image. And if you picked up on that and contacted me about it, you would have gotten another meaningful error, and you would have been able to eliminate every single red letter on here, the capital version of it. So capital S-O-N-Y, so on and so forth. Finally, with week 3, I felt like I wasn't going to be able to do the full plan here. I could tell that there was a huge drop-off in participation, and so I felt like I had to clue people in on the fun. So I had promised to release a hint for Crack 400, A Hard Road to Hoe, if we had no solves by this point in the contest, so here are your hints. With apologies to all contestants, I've been winding you all up a bit. During planning for Crack 400, I planned to pretend to be getting a lot of complaints about it, and make those complaints become increasingly unhinged as the contest went into the 3rd week. I did not actually expect any real complaints, but I couldn't resist an opportunity to play it up a little when it presented itself. But I have not been lying at all. Doing that is actually against one of the contest axioms, so there is a path to success, as I said. There are several, actually, but the one I expect most of you to follow is to simply do as I suggested. Relax, it's a long contest, play my games, and you'll learn a few things to help you. The truth is, I have already revealed 2 of the characters in the password. The next character will be revealed in Wave 7, then 10, then 14, then 16, 17, and 18. The longer you play, and the more you find, the easier the challenge will get. You don't even need to do any brute forcing at all you need is a little luck, a little patience, a notebook and pencil. It's not easy. In playtesting, it took me 68 hours to solve the challenges and assemble the password. So you see, I haven't told a single lie. This challenge isn't worth any points, this referring to Project 400 Meaningful Errors, but I introduced to you a secret game. So a game within the game. The 68 hours, by the way, is how long it took me to solve or to find the character in the 400 level challenges in playtesting, not the amount of time it took to brute force it or anything. And I have had other participants corroborate that 68 hours was about what it took. So seems to be about where it ought to have been. Okay, so let's move on to the other 400 level challenges, and we will show you along the way the solutions to those challenges, and also the character for the Crack 400 password, and where and how it was hidden. So in between Wave 1, where Crack 400 was released, and my hint in Week 3 regarding Project 400, we had another 400 level challenge that was released in Week 2, which did provide a character in the Crack 400 password that I just wanted to see if anyone discovered it, just by happenstance, on their own before I announced the hint. Nobody did, so with Crypto 400, a question of perspective. This relies on the BB84 protocol. You are provided qubit spaces for Alice. You're provided measurements and an encrypted message. And it is your job to essentially research the BB84 protocol and to decrypt the message using the corrected measurements. So this is brute forceable. By the way, many participants did pick up on that because the flag always starts with POCTF, curly bracket, UWSP underscore. Because you have known plain text, you can do a known plain text attack. This uses a BB84 protocol, which is meant to be the novelty here. But the encryption itself is weak. So you can do a plain text attack here. Many participants did, which I consider to be fine. That's not a big deal. I give you a clue Since this is a new system still in testing, the seed space is restricted to positive integers between 1 and 100. So it is a little bit of brute forcing here. You are going to have to correct those measurements based on a series of potential seeds, but it's not very many. It shouldn't take too long to do them all. So what you do is basically you try to correct those measurements in order to derive your key. So we have Alice's qubit values and we have 66% of Bob's qubit values. So if we have both measurements, that's fine. No need to do anything. We have the measurement. We're good to go. For every third qubit, well, what we have to do is recalculate that. So we use Alice's qubit value to figure out what Bob's would have been via those seed values, right? So what we end up doing then is just through 1 through 100 here, we end up deriving our keys. And this is where a lot of people messed up on. We're talking BB84 here, so we have to chunk the key and we have to make sure that our key is padded if need be. So we extract the 8-bit chunk from the key for XORing using modulus to loop over the key, as you see here. 8 bits at a time, convert that to an integer, XOR each byte with the key. Ensure the key is repeated because the key is not going to be quite long enough. Here we have our qubits. So if we take the qubits that Mary has from the challenge and we convert those to ASCII, we get the string crack400Y. Now, that is a character of the password. Many people assumed that it was the first character of the password, but that is not the case. I will show you more when we get to that point. But this is what the clue in every 400 level challenge looked like. Crack 400 dash and then the character. All right, so if you went through it, you would have found that the seed number was 42. Then once you have the proper seed, you simply decrypt the flag and you're good to go. And for Crypto 400, the meaningful error, if you manage to pick up on this, is the word there is misspelled, meaning that you would be able to eliminate O and F, T, H, I, E, R, and whatever remaining letters are in quantum that I haven't already named would be eliminated from the character set for the Crack 400 password. Next, we have Stego 400. He pretends to be a boar. So this one I released with week 3, along with the clue about Project 400. The name of the challenge here is supposed to also be a clue or a nod, I suppose, to the plan to pretend to be losing my mind. But essentially, you're presented with an image here where I say, don't you see it's all connected, etc., etc. So as a Stego challenge, of course, the flag is embedded in the image. Your Crack 400 clue in this case being the hexadecimal characters that are on the screen of the overloaded computer. That spells out Crack 400 capital B. All right. So many of you ran strings over the file to try and see if perhaps the flag was embedded somewhere in metadata or something like that. And those of you that did, some of you messaged me asking if the flag was scrambled and needed to be descrambled somehow, which you could. Yeah, I mean, all the characters are there. You just got to figure out their order, but that's not really, that'd be a pretty difficult challenge considering the number of characters that we're talking about here. So maybe you solved it that way. That's not the way it was intended to be solved. Instead, what you're meant to do is to look at the quantization tables. So here using JPEG Snoop here. Here we have our luminance quantization table. It's got these values in it here. If we convert those from decimal to ASCII characters, you can see there's our flag in order, no descrambling necessary. So your clue here, of course, are the JPEG artifacts that are apparent in the image, brought about by the change in the quantization table, but also the note that I gave you, noting that the flag is quite fragile. Make sure that your image matches the checksum, or it may not be recoverable. That's because there's a lossy image format. In compression, it will change the values on the quantization table, and you would effectively lose the flag. So that is your clue as to where the location was. Now, in terms of the meaningful error here in Stego 400, we have right there in the first sentence, "Oh my God, have you seen the things Professor Johnson, HSA, instead of has, been saying in Discord?" So you could eliminate capital JOHNSON, HSABEN, if you were so inclined. Okay, and the next 400 level challenge to be released was in Wave 7. It is Forensics 400, No Irony in Rain. So this one, I told you a story about how I was going to do a POCTF 2024, the movie. I wanted to have a huge worldwide release and so on. So I got a screener copy and I put it up on my YouTube channel. I had 24 views after just a week, but then all of a sudden it blows up. I have over 500 views by the end of the weekend, but I had no idea where those views were coming from. People just kept posting ha 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 and smiley faces and so on at me, and I didn't know what that meant. So I provided a copy of the video so that you could maybe tell me why. I'll play the video for you, just real quick.
Welcome to Pointer Overflow, where sanity is insane. You think you can handle the chaos? Ha! This isn't just a challenge, it's a descent into madness. You'll be wrestling with bees, putting together puzzles with grandma, take a bite out of a buffalo, and the kind of mind-bending puzzles that make your brain scream brain. Picture this, you, a brave soul, diving headfirst into a sea of eels, while I, Professor Johnson, cackle in the background, reveling in your struggle. Each flag you capture is a tiny victory against the abyss. Save me! But beware! I require assistance. Can you outsmart the lumberjacks? Can you push defenders down the stairs? Join me, Professor Johnson, if you dare, and let's see if you can survive the wild ride of Pointer Overflow. Embrace the madness or be consumed by it. Pancakes!
5, 4.
Okay, it's a lovely movie, is it not? But if I pause here, I want to explain there are actually two ways to solve this challenge, an easy way and a hard way. Let me make some adjustments here to this freeze frame. Okay, so just some basic adjustments here in VLC Media Player, and it brings our first method of solving the challenge out quite a bit. You may have detected the little wavy lines in the background here, as you can see them kind of peeking out on both sides. Now they do get lost here in the middle, but that's because I'm only using VLC here to bring them out. If we step through this, you can see, yep, they're waving, they're moving around. So one way that you can solve this is basically by doing reconstruction. These wavy lines, they are the flag. And since they're waving, as they go about their business here, there is a time where at least part of every line crosses through the midpoint. So let's say that that's P here, for example. The wave works because here is the midpoint in the letter, and it waves back and forth, meaning the top moves one direction, the bottom moves another direction, and it just snakes around that way. But since it's moving back and forth along a wave, in every frame, at least some point of this letter will be here at the midpoint or effectively undistorted. So what you can do is essentially extract the frames, find the ones where the letters are undistorted and clip them out, reassemble. right? You just cut and paste and you're good to go. Not difficult, but time consuming, a real pain in the ass, right? If that's the way you solve it, more power to you. But there was an easier way to solve it. I just don't overtly tell you. I told you that I posted this to my YouTube channel. And I did. So if you found my YouTube channel, there's an easier way to solve this. So here is the video on my YouTube channel. It's the same exact video. The only difference is that here on YouTube, there are subtitle tracks. And if you happen to check out the Russian subtitles, then that's right there, the flag. It just crossed by the screen. It is sort of encoded if I go back. It's not in English, obviously, but it's also not a transliteration. The subtitle before this tells you can decode it essentially by using a fairly common Itsukin Russian standard keyboard to a relatively standard English QWERTY keyboard. Now, as for the Crack 400 clue, if you listen closely to the audio in the movie, you might notice that there are several fairly obvious slow, low beeps. That's Morse code. And in Morse code, that spells out our next Crack 400 password letter, which is P. It's not established whether or not it's a lowercase p or a capital P. It was meant to be ambiguous, so you had two characters in that position, but it's an uppercase P. And for Forensics 400, the meaningful error, if you didn't pick up on it, is in these sentences here, where I said I had 24 views spelled wrong and 506 views spelled wrong, meaning that if you were pursuing this path to success in Crack 400, you would eliminate 2, 4, VEIWS, AFTER, 506. The next 400 level challenge to be released was in Wave 10, and it is Exploit 400, Imperfect, Impermanent, and Incomplete. In this one, you are given a binary running on a remote server. This one is the Secret Keeper application, and if you are pursuing the meaningful error here, it's a little bit more obvious than in previous challenges where it is it. So you can eliminate CALIT, capital S, ECRET dash KEE, capital K, EEPR, exclamation point. Alright, so this challenge essentially required a little bit of grooming here in order to make your way to the flag. So we have the Secret Keeper program, and if you want to set things up, what you have to do is you need to create a couple of notes, then you operate the application in order to set the file name, delete some notes by sending them to the void, reserve some more space, and eventually when you call that note back, you call the exploit 400 underscore flag.txt file, which gives you the flag. If you wanted to get the Crack 400 password, you just Crack 400 hint. The clue as to the file names is in the source code, which is why I provide that instead of a compiled binary, where I specify that the file name that is used in normal operation is exploit 400 underscore safe, and I explain in this comment here that the format for the naming convention is category and level, so exploit 400 and then safe, which you can see here, but there's also flag and hint, which tells you if you want the flag, then it's exploit 400 underscore flag.txt, or if you want the Crack 400 hint, it's Crack 400 underscore hint.txt. And the hint in this case tells us that the Crack 400 password for exploit 400 is lowercase z. The next 400 level challenge to be released was in week 14, Web 400, a bitter delicacy. And in this one, you are given access to my personal botnet, quote unquote. You see here Professor Johnson's secret botnet, and you're not given really a lot to work with here on the main page. I mean, it's just a list of fake computers and stuff, but there's a couple of secrets here. First, as far as the Web 400 flag goes, I do mention in the challenge that I've hidden the login page to the admin console. I have an error.log running in a secure location a level higher than the app itself, and I've hidden all other sensitive information using cutting-edge Linux methods the OS hackers and the NSA use. Look it up. I'm being silly. That's supposed to be obvious that, it's part of a joke. But it gives you clues as to what you're looking for. So let's start with the login page then. You can fuzz this if you need to, but eventually you do find a login page, and there is valid credentials here. If you go admin, you do get a login page, but it's unauthorized access detected, prepare for incarceration, and then a private IP address. What you actually want to do in order to solve the challenge is fail this, and if you do, then you get an error, and it says view file log/error log. The challenge text tells you I have an error log running in a level higher than the app. But what that does is it tells you that there is a view file function here, and a level higher we can bust out here. We just got to find the right location. So what is the right location? The secret Linux trick, super secret for hiding information, is to use a .hidden or .something. And if we do, then we can indeed access it. We just have to use that view file. Okay, as for your Crack 400 clue for Web 400, if you go to the Crack 400 route, you're brought to this page, which says Project 400 Meaningful Errors, where it tells you the current hash rate, and then there's a list of virtual machines. These virtual machines actually match some here on the front page. And if you remember, messages sent over Discord about calculating mega hashes per second and giga hashes per second, and how you could do that with an i5 and good RAMs and so on and so forth. Well, you'd see that some of these machines correspond to what would be considered perhaps office computers, and some of them, of course, are extraordinarily powerful. Here we have the Matrix and so on. But there's a mixture of different types of computers with different specs. So what we have to do is we have to reach a magic number in terms of hashes per second by choosing the good computers with the good RAMs, as long as they have downloaded their CPUs. Let's say Crypto Diamond Hands here. You can see that gets us a whopping 4 gigahashes per second. And we can get a little error message here that lets us know that we're pushing our computer a little bit. It also happens to eliminate other computers along the same lines. So let's go back and look and see what Crypto Diamond Hands, The Rig, and Elite Gamer all have in common. Crypto Diamond Hands is a 64 gig machine. The Rig as well. Elite Gamer as well. So basically it's just a little sort of blackout kind of puzzle, I suppose. You just have to choose the right machines, and the only way to do that is to essentially creep up on it, and you know when you've exceeded the value because you get the little error here. I can keep picking things until I pick them all. There's our maximum temperature right there, but it doesn't matter. So we're trying to get something less than 4.2, but more than 2, more than 3. So between 3 and let's say 4 is what we're trying to do here. And we're going to need the console for this. So when I choose the right combination of machines, which is just the first 3 machines, or any of these other ones that are marked off in red in that combination, but yes, the first 3 machines, our console spits out this base 64 encoded string. which if we reverse gives us crack 401. And if you are looking for our meaningful error for Web 400, well, it's right here in the first sentence. We're getting closer and closer to the end of Pointer Overflow 2022. This is not Pointer Overflow 2022, this is Pointer Overflow 2024. And if you notice that, you could eliminate capital OVERFLOW2 and 0 and AND from your list of possible characters for the Crack 400 password. Our next 400 level challenge, released with Wave 16, or Just Get There with Weary Legs, where I provide you essentially with a little poem to go with our reverse engineering challenge. Our meaningful error here, difficult to tell, for almost all of these words are not written in a traditional English format, but none of them are actually errors. Our error is in our MD5 checksum. It is not a 2 here, it is in fact a 1. And if you happen to pick up on that, you might realize why I had to change the 1. If you just saw the solution for Web 400, you know why 1 appears in our password. So I changed that, which means you can eliminate all the rest of these characters, letters, numbers, as well as the letters in checksum. So for this one, I have, instead of the normal C, using Python, and then I used some obfuscators, and then eventually used PyInstaller, I think it was, to put it into a PE file. So it would require reverse engineering that, and the process for showing you how to do that is really practical in this kind of format. So you go through that process. Eventually you can tease out some critical variables. So here's my solution for it. You would note, for example, that it is AES encrypted, but the flag is actually redacted in the original code, so you have to go looking for another unrelated variable which contains the encrypted flag. Then you need to find the key and the IV, which I have identified here. The key, derived from POCTF 2024, the IV, crack 400, capital X, and so that's your crack 400 clue. Once you identify the flag, you identify that it's AES, you identify the key and the IV, it just becomes a simple matter of just decrypting it, and if you do, then you get your flag. Our next 400 level challenge, released at week 17, Miscellaneous 400, My Synthetic Friend. This is based off of a challenge from last year that proved to be just diabolically difficult for most of our participants because it's a multi-stage encryption process and you have no idea if you're on the right path until you get to the end and see what your plain text looks like. But I do provide clues along the way. In this case, we have our first clue. Our first clue is that participants are provided with a grid as such. First, our crack 400 clue here. If you look at the grid, you'll notice that the characters CR, 4, and K, and 0 are all a different font than the other characters. That's your crack 400 for you. And then if you look at the blank spaces here, you'll see that there's a very faint % sign. There you go. Crack 400 % is the crack 400 clue in Miscellaneous 400. So you're provided with this grid and a clue that you have to reverse 3 steps. So what you're meant to do with this, and here's a reproduction of the grid here, is this is the ciphertext that you're provided. And you are meant, with the clues that are provided, to understand that this is a grid cipher using a 5x5 All right, so we go down the line and eventually we get to this next stage of ciphertext, and we're on to the second method. So the second step also uses a grid. It's a Wolseley cipher, and in order to do that, you need to have a keyword. Basically what you do is you take your grid, you go A to Z, and then you rearrange the letters. You put your keywords letters first, so obviously you can't have repeated letters. And then you put the rest of the alphabet in order after that. That's to decode. To encode, you do the same thing, but you reverse from Z to A, or I should say Z to A, excluding your keys letters, and then you put your key letters in reverse order, as you see here. In this case, the key is lunch, giving us this. So my first step is your last, and this is a Bayes cipher. So we take our ciphertext from before, we work our magic here with the Bayes cipher, and we get POCTF, USB to infinity and beyond as our and now we have finally reached the end, our final 400 challenge. For this challenge, OSINT 400, I couldn't bring myself to shoot. You are provided with an image, as shown. I have redacted a large portion of it, except for the night sky, and I have provided you with the horizon. I've also provided you with the challenge text, certain other informations of a critical nature. So your goal is to find out where this picture was taken, but of course you're not provided with any landmarks in order to use as references. You're provided only a picture of the night sky. But did you know that you can do so with a few steps? There's certain pieces of information that are extremely important in order to navigate by the stars. Typically speaking, our forebears who would navigate long distances using the stars would do so by taking a series of measurements. It's a craft that's sort of been lost over time. We don't really need to navigate by stars, most of us, that often anymore. But essentially what you do is you need a couple of pieces of information. First, the stars help. Having star charts and calculations related to that helps. You need to know the time, hopefully by metadata on the image, but if not, then whatever. And you need to essentially be able to work out a couple of measurements, knowing the visible horizon and so on. So that's why I've marked the horizon. That's why I've marked the center of this field of stars, and that's why I have provided you with the date. So what else do you need? Well, you need the altitude, and so the altitude is going to be the total height of the image, and then pixels to the horizon, and then pixels to the center of the star field. If we do that, then we would know that our altitude is 31.92 degrees. We also need to know our field of view in order to appropriately do these calculations, and we do that by calculating the arc seconds per pixel. In this case, it's 154. We can get that automatically without having to do the math if we check out a tool called astronomy.net, which will do these calculations for you. So astronomy.net tells us our pixel scale is 153 arc seconds per pixel. It gives us our radius, our size. It also gives us our center in terms of declination and so on. And what that does is provides us with a relative idea of where we may have been looking, including, of course, our orientation. So our compass orientation, looking at 320.4 degrees east of north. Okay, so we take those figures, we get their declension from astronomy.net, we get our azimuth, or our orientation, our compass bearing, 320.4. I give you the time. You can calculate the altitude by calculating your field of view, your image height, your object pixel, and your horizon pixel. And then you just simply do the calculations, which I know is not simple. I mean, it is simple, it's just not easy if you're not familiar with this kind of thing. And eventually you can arrive at your conclusion. Now, what you're asked to do is not technically to find the location itself. You're to find the Wikipedia page for that location. That location is Ribblehead Viaduct, North Yorkshire. You go there, and you're asked to find the person who is no longer existing, who edited this. The Daily Mail is an unreliable source, you can see there. That is the password to the archive, which contains the flag. Now, there were many clues about this that I actually released in advance. A couple of weeks before week 18, I posted this picture and I was talking about how cybersecurity people are like wizards. But if you look close enough, that's a URL. It goes to a Stack Exchange article on calculating your position on Earth from pictures of the stars. I then released a Happy Holidays card around Christmas, and this is the closest civilization to Ribblehead Viaduct. There's a little sign here that might give you a little bit of peek, but this right here is right next to the viaduct. Then I released this image. I see you. Keep doing an awesome job. If you look a little bit closely, you might see that there's a little bit of strangeness going on here with this image. Glasgow, Edinburgh, Leeds, Manchester, Birmingham, right here where he's pointing. Ribblehead Viaduct, North Yorkshire. As for your Crack 400 clue, in the archive that I provide to you, there's a system volume information there. And in that, I have converted decimal, the clue Crack 400, and then the number 3. And that is your clue for Crack 400. So if you have solved all the challenges and have collected all of the letters, eliminated all of the letters, then you would have, by the end, certain characters that make up the Crack 400 password. But how do you know what order they're in? Because they're not in the order in which they were released. Well, on the contest website, there's the challenges categories: Crack, Crypto, Exploit, Forensics, Miscellaneous, OSINT, Reversing, Stego, and Web. That's your order. This order is also available on the hints page: Crack, Crypto, Exploits, Forensics, Miscellaneous, OSINT, Reverse, Stego, and Web. That's your order. Meaning if you have collected the whole set, you would know by the end of the contest that the Crack 400 password is YZ, capital P, %3, capital X, capital B, 1. And you didn't have to brute force a thing. A notebook and a pencil. That's all that was required. All right, so those are most of the secrets behind Project 400 Meaningful Errors. If you join us for Pointer Overflow 2025 next September, and I hope you do, you can expect a whole lot more in terms of secrets and shenanigans. All right. If you're working your way to the other category videos, then I'll see you over there. If not, then thank you again for joining us for 2024. Please return and have yourself a wonderful spring and summer semester.